How many times have you set a goal only to forget about it or abandon it a couple weeks later? If the answer is a lot, you're definitely gonna wanna watch all the way to the end of this video because I'm gonna give you 4 really important techniques that are gonna help you actually stop abandoning the goals that you set for yourself. I'm the perfect person to do it because my name is Dr. Karin and I have a PhD focused on behavior change and mindset. I created this company, Body Brain Alliance, to bring compassion first change education to you. So make sure that you hit subscribe so you don't miss a single video. Let's dive right in. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they are creating a new goal is that they don't just set one goal. They set 3 goals, or 4 goals, or 5 goals, or 10 goals. And that is a huge problem. I want you to imagine you're learning to juggle. If you are learning to juggle, would you start with 8 balls? No. Would you start with 3 balls? No. You would start with 1 ball. And if you went to 2 or 3 balls and then those were becoming a really, really big issue, you would scale back to 1 or 2 until you actually gained that juggling skill. That is exactly the lesson I need you to get through your brain when it comes to goals. If you set more than 1 goal and one of those goals gets abandoned, that's a sign you set too many goals. So we need to scale way back. Now, I am no stranger to the fact that this is not easy. A lot of us think that we have a lot to do, a lot to improve about ourselves. And so sticking with one goal can feel really constricting. It can feel like there's not enough time, or you can struggle to figure out what goal you should actually be focusing on. What I want you to do to get past this is I want you to use something called a not now list. A not now list is exactly what it sounds like. You're gonna write on a piece of paper, now on one side of the paper, and not now on the other side of the paper. You're gonna put the one goal you're focusing on the now side, and then you get to write down all of the other goals. You get to capture them so that you can come back to them later. Let me tell you something about the brain. The brain does not like stories without an ending. And so when you tell yourself, okay, brain, those ideas are for later, those ideas are for later, your brain treats that as if it's still on a loop. And so it feels difficult to put those things down, to stop thinking about them. By putting them onto a not now list, you are going to find it so much easier to truly stick with just one thing. All right, so you've set one singular goal. The next thing I want you to focus on is including both behavioral and becoming components. Let's say that you have decided you want to run a marathon. Great. Let's say actually it's a half marathon, a little bit more realistic for most people. If you want to run a half marathon, the first thing I want you to do is set a behavioral component. What is it going to look like to train for a half marathon? Maybe your behavioral component is that you are going to go on a run on average 3 times per week. Great, you're set. But I also want you to think about who you have to become in order to achieve this goal. Who is the version of you who runs a half marathon, who completes a half marathon? And how is that version of you different from the version that is now? This can make a huge difference. Maybe your answer is that the version of you who completes a half marathon is actually a little bit more flexible than you are now. Maybe that version of you has less all or nothing thinking about their training. That gives you a really, really important clue about how the process of pursuing that goal is going to go. So make your behavioral list of components and your becoming list for every single goal you set. The third tip, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on, but it is really important. And that is prepare to experience the zone of suck. The zone of suck is the period of time where you start to pursue a goal and you don't see any progress. The progress is happening, but it is so small and so incremental that you're not yet seeing a return on investment. It is all effort, no reward. And it's really, really hard. But what makes it easier is if you know it's coming and you're prepared. I have an entire video that is specifically about the zone of suck, so I want you to check that out right after you're done watching this one. That's gonna help prepare your mindset to overcome that zone and to make sure you get through to the lovely ending part where you actually get to experience the reward. And last thing, I want you to use implementation intentions. I want you to take out another piece of paper, and actually, I want you to give me one in the comments. What you're gonna do is you're gonna write the statement, if blank, then. blank. If you've tried a goal like this before, let's say 2 years ago, you told yourself you were gonna run a half marathon. What happened? This is where you have to take radical responsibility and you have to say, these are the areas that I contributed to being a problem. For example, I didn't want to train. I didn't want to run in the rain. I didn't want to make time for my runs on the weekend. So what you're going to do is you are going to write down implementation intentions, if-then statements, that give your future self an example of how that version of you is going to handle those same obstacles that might come up. So you could say, if a Saturday comes about and I have another event that feels really, really enticing, but my long run is supposed to be that day, then what? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna go to that event? Are you going to move your long runs to Friday? Are you gonna have a backup day in your calendar where you could have long runs in case you need to be flexible on the weekend? The more you anticipate for the obstacles, both tangible and mental, that you've experienced before, the better off you're going to be and the more capable you are going to feel when they come up. I promise, if you do those 4 things, you are going to be so much more able to pursue those goals. But one of the things I always say is big goals, big support. Make sure that you have people in your life who are going to help you achieve that goal, who are gonna give you the guidance and support that you need. And if you don't have those people, I highly recommend you check out our one-on-one coaching program. We have helped clients with all sorts of goals, from running half marathons, to changing their nutrition, to becoming better at time management, to incorporating more fun and joy and rest in their life. Whatever your goal is, I promise it has a behavioral component, and that is what we specialize in. The link is in the description if you wanna learn more about the program. With that, I'll see you in the next video.